A response to Rabbi Eduardo Arroyo on Romans 2 verse 26 and on the shameful and disgraceful statement he made. Romans 2 verse 26 says, "If the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision?" The first thing that we have to do is answer the question, what law or laws is verse 26 referring to? The Greek word for law in this verse is nomos, and its emphasis is on the first 5 books of the Scriptures, the Torah, but it can also be applied to any scriptural laws whatsoever. What is most important is to know that it is referring to God's laws without dismissing any of them. Verse 26 makes a clear statement that if the uncircumcision keeps the righteousness of the law, their uncircumcision shall be counted for circumcision. If this is a true statement, then how can one say that God's laws are done away with? Romans 8 verse 4 tells us that the righteousness of the law is fulfilled in those who walk not after the flesh but after the Spirit. So with this being said, I am here to inform Gentile believers that if you are walking after the Spirit will fulfill the righteousness of the law in you. Cross-referencing Romans 2 verse 26 with Romans 8 verse 4, the only thing that believers have to do to show that they are circumcised in the heart, whether they are Jews or Gentiles, is to keep the law and walk after the Spirit, so that the Spirit can fulfill the righteousness of the law in them. When one understands this, then one needs to acknowledge that not only God's laws are to be kept but that men like Robert Solberg who teach that God's laws are not required but permissible are men who want nothing to do with God's laws. They are men who have a strong aversion towards God's laws. Or better said, they have an extreme dislike for God's laws, though they say they don't. Let me also make this clear that outward circumcision, meaning circumcision of the flesh, profits nothing if the law is not kept, because though God made a covenant of the flesh with Abraham, what is most important to God is that we circumcise ourselves to the Lord by removing the foreskin of our hearts according to Deuteronomy 10 verse 16. And even though God is the one who circumcises our hearts, it is our obedience to the laws that allows us to walk after the Spirit so that the Spirit can fulfill the righteousness of the laws that He stored and wrote inwardly. If the circumcised in the heart refers to those who keep the law, then Gentile believers would have to be taught that the law of the clean and unclean would also apply, including the Sabbath. Rabbi Eduardo Arroyo was asked the question, is it a sin to eat pork under the new covenant? He responded by stating that sin is sin no matter what, but he added a shameful and disgraceful statement, a statement that says sin can be regarded as though it's not sin. He gives his reason as to why, then follows by saying that we are all in the new covenant and under the Torah of the Messiah. Either Eduardo Arroyo has no understanding of scriptural truth, or he is allowing himself to take a position that pacifies both Messianic and Christian views in order to draw viewers to his YouTube channel. Eduardo Arroyo, why don't you take time from your so-called busy schedule and read Psalms 89 verse 34? Ruminate upon it, regurgitate it as a cow chews the cud, then ask yourself the questions: does God break His covenants, and does He alter the words that proceed from His lips, or do you serve a God that rescinds, in other words, fails to carry out or go against what He spoke? Then read Deuteronomy 14 verse 3, where God in His own words said, "Thou shalt not eat any abominable things." Is pork an abomination unto God according to Deuteronomy 14? And if so, then why are you condoning it for the Gentile believers, making it appear that it is okay for them to eat pork? Let me put it this way, why are you making it appear that it is okay for them to eat unclean food while you abstain from eating filth? You are pulling a Peter, in other words you are imitating Peter, who was exposed for his hypocrisy. Another question, when did an abomination no longer become an abomination to God? Eduardo Arroyo, either you deliberately made a diabolical statement by saying sin can be regarded as not being sin, or Satan is using your lips to make such a statement. In both cases, scriptures are being corrupted and believers are being misled. I understand that God did not give the laws to the Gentiles, but when a Gentile gets grafted into the good olive tree, he becomes part of the commonwealth of Israel. And it is our responsibility as Jews to teach them about God's laws and putting God's law in its proper perspective without making them burdensome or altering them. Another thing, where in the scriptures does it say that there is a Torah of the Messiah, since you said you are under his Torah, and can I conclude that you want nothing to do with the Torah that was given to us at Mount Sinai? Remember these words and don't let them escape from your mind. Satan will hand over thrones on YouTube to allow believers to generate wealth just to blind them so that he can distort the scriptures and mislead the people. I hope you do not enter the grass field like Nebuchadnezzar did, because if you do, you will find yourself eating grass. Another thing is that when Satan hands over a throne, he tends to dethrone the person from where they are currently sitting.